everyone and welcome to the latest edition of This Racing Life. It's the first TRL of the calendar year of 2023, so why not start off with a bang with the person who has been on fire this season. Yes, trainer Ben Pauling. New digs, new horses, new beginnings. Ben, we're standing here on a golf course. It's an unusual place for a training centre. Just take me right back to the beginning and the vision that you had to actually build a premises on this.
So Soph, my wife and I very much were looking to find somewhere to build a yard in the area, and couldn't really find anywhere, and we'd heard that this golf course was potentially one day for sale, and we looked up and found out that it was. And we had this vision that golf and racing could work alongside each other. You know, it does at Sandown, it does at Ludlow, it's various other places. And so we set our sights on creating that dream. And because it's all commercial, whether it's the racing yard or the golf course, it made the planning relatively smooth. And here we have created the new yard on what was the 15th and 16th hole, and we replaced 2 holes, so it's still an 18-hole golf course and will remain so through to October, and then 9 holes thereafter. But it's worked really well, with the fact that the golfers actually quite enjoy seeing the horses, and it's come together quite nicely. Most training centres, when they're built from scratch, really and truly are working within the curtilage of an old farm or whatever, and you have to work with the buildings that you've got. You might be able to add on, but ultimately you have to work with what you've got. The really fortunate thing for us was the fact that we had a blank canvas. We had a bare patch of land that was 2 golf holes, and we were able then to, with the expertise of our brilliant architect John, create something that was original, that answered all the questions that I needed to get right, which was light and ventilation and space, not too many horses in one barn, and so on and so forth. And I do count ourselves very fortunate that we were able to create that from scratch, because it's not always the case, and I think that is why we have been able to build this wonderful facility that we've got to train from today.
I guess in the old yard you'd have known what you didn't like about that, and you were able to implement it here. Mm-hmm. How many yards up and down the country had you visited and maybe taken bits and pieces that you liked from there? Yeah,
well, obviously, you know, I learnt my trade from Nicky, and Seven Barrows had a huge amount of brilliant things, and my old yard had all the facilities you could ever wish for. And if you look back through our form and the way our career has gone, we started with some very kind owners that wanted to send us a couple of horses, but they were low-key horses, but we struck gold with a couple of ones early doors, which sort of propelled us into the next level. And the old yard coped brilliantly well, and we had, I mean, let's be realistic, we had 3 festival winners from there, we had Grade 1 winners from there. We have not had a bad time there, and it's a great yard. But what I think was harder is when we got to sort of the 70-80 mark of numbers of horses. All of a sudden we were bursting at the seams a bit, and we were all a bit on top of each other, and it was just harder to maintain the horse's health. If one got a cold, then 60 others were susceptible to it because they were all under one barn, and that's not to say the old yard wasn't capable of training a racehorse very successfully. It was, as long as they were all healthy the whole time.
When you went to your architects, John and Sue, and said, "I want to do this," what was their reaction?
Well, it's quite amusing because John was recommended to us by a planning advisor that we used, Neil, and he had never designed or had anything to do with an equestrian facility, and freely admitted that from the start. He said, I I know nothing about horses, I know nothing about racing. So you're just going to have to tell me what you want, why you want it. And so we just had a chat for about 3 hours, and we specified the light, the ventilation, the space, only 20 in a barn, what gallops, what schooling lane we needed, round gallop, horse walker, tack rooms, and we basically just sent him off with a blank canvas. And because he came at it so fresh, he didn't have any preconceived ideas, and he designed it beautifully. And really, from the very early stages, his original designs weren't far off what we've ended up with. So it was a unique situation, but I think because he came to it without any thoughts on what it should be, he really did just listen to what we wanted and created what we've got.
A unique situation, and the results are very much showing that and paying off. Hopefully you've had too much time focusing on decks and not enough on golf, because we're going to have a chip off now.
Okay, perfect. Let's see how we get on.
Right, after you.
All right. Too much. Terrible.
Thankfully, Ben's choice of architects was better than his club choice.
My name's John Courtney-Thompson. I'm the Director of Architecture for Courtingtons, and we're an architecture and landscape practice, and we have offices in Banbury in Oxfordshire and Sandbach in Cheshire. I've been an architect since 1997. Always wanted to be a fighter pilot really, but I'm colourblind, so as many architects are, bizarrely. And so I had to find a new career, and my mother suggested architecture. My dad's a builder. School holidays were spent on frozen scaffolds and all the rest. I realised I really liked building, but I really didn't like having cold hands. So I thought we'd get a job which was in the office and in the warm, and we'd still be involved with building. So yeah, ever since then I've been an architect since then, and yeah, you know, it's the best and worst job in the world.
Well, look where it's landed you, out of the warm and into the cold.
Absolutely, but you know, what a place.
What a place indeed. Let's talk about this place. When you sat down with Ben and he laid out his vision, what were your initial feelings about the project at hand?
So Ben got a very clear idea about what he wanted. You know, he's a great trainer, and we appreciated that he knew everything that we didn't about horses, which is we knew absolutely nothing. So Ben took a great sort of a risk in a way, and just told us the problems and asked us to come up with a solution to the problems that he'd got, and that's exactly what we did. And what you see here is literally about the second attempt at, you know, answering those problems.
Inevitably, you also had a certain time pressure on this. The racing season kicks off proper around September, October.
Yeah, so we actually first met with Ben and his team in April 2020, and what we did is we started with this concept development stuff, and then we put in the planning application, and it was resolved under delegated powers within 10 weeks. So by the end of, just the end of December in 2020, just when the world was all locked down, we got our consent for this.
Has this opened up a new facet of business for you? If someone came along and said, build me that yard, you would be in the perfect position to be able to do so?
Very much so. We'd love to do that. We wouldn't build you this yard though. This yard is very specific to this shape of the terrain and the geography here. You know, the big central idea was this 2 furlong track in the centre here, which just circumvents the top of this hill. That's the big idea really. That was where we started. Once that had been established, all the rest followed on. I doubt we'd get another site where it's exactly the same.
By all accounts, it's been a roaring success, but what were some of the challenges that you faced during the process?
Well, there's always certain technical challenges. The site itself, there was a murmur of some archaeology on the site, which we had to take account of when we're doing the earthworks and grading, things like that. The local village were concerned about issues with the drainage from the site, so we ended up designing a completely independent drainage system here. So all the rainwater, all the foul water, everything's all treated on site. So you know, so their concerns were dealt with. And basically, you know, the big concern which my colleague Sue deals with is the visual impact in the landscape. This is an area of outstanding natural beauty, and that really is the big thing.
It certainly is, and with that comes a big responsibility to preserve it, as Sue Hetherington explains.
Once we'd established what Ben wanted from the yard, we then had to look at how best to fit it in the landscape and how to most sympathetically fit it into the landscape. Obviously, we're in an area of outstanding natural beauty, Cotswolds area of outstanding natural beauty. We're on the top of a hill, so it's quite a prominent position, and we had to look at where best to actually site that within the golf course. When we looked at it, this was the most favourable. Obviously, you can see the topography has helped us here very much. So we've looked at, sitting the yard down behind the mound that's in the back, and actually it became the real focus for the design of the yard, having this landform in the middle. Obviously, we put the 2 furlong track going around it, which is, they call it the round now, which is fantastic. And the yard ran radially from that.
It must be immensely satisfying to see the finished product here, to see horses so happy, people so happy.
It is amazing. I mean, I think from mine and John's perspective, the most brilliant thing, apart from coming and seeing something that you visualised on paper, and I know you've seen the plans, and to just from that plan and from those ideas from when John and I sat down and scribbled different layouts and whatever, to see that now realised is incredible. But I think the most satisfying thing is seeing how well Ben's doing. And I know he's had such a fantastic season, and I know he puts that all down to the fact that his horses are happy, his staff is happy, are happy, they've got great training facilities, and I think from our point of view, that's really one of the most satisfying things. What more can you ask for when you've done a job like this?
So a change of scenery for the yard, and that means a new local. The Black Horse Inn, one of Donington Ale's 19 pubs across the county, is a great place to come and celebrate, and a place that is steeped in horse racing.
I am I suppose a director at Donington Brewery, but really I'm the owner. It's my father and I, and we run Donington Brewery together.
A family business, and when food and drink is around, the Wine Tipster is not far away. Neil Phillips.
Well, I tell you what, it's absolutely marvellous. I'm really enjoying standing behind this bar, John. It's great. And Anthony and I have been talking for ages about actually going in, tasting a beer together, and it's great to be here tasting Donington beers.
Welcome, good man.
And it's brilliant. And you've got great history. I mean, as a family, come on, you go right back in terms of when the brewery started, 1865.
That's right. So it's over 150 years old, and it's an incredible brewery. The brewery itself, when it was built, we're still using most of that original equipment.
Wow.
It's got a water wheel there that powers our belts, pistons, and all the brewing equipment really. So
You're a traditional brewer.
We are a bit of a going back in time,
Yeah.
and the kit works, and it makes a bloody good drop of beer. So why change it?
It's absolutely fantastic.
It certainly does, I have to say.
It's absolutely
Yeah.
brilliant.
I mean,
and you know, one of the things as well is that when folks can go down to the brewery, I've done this, I've been down there, you're not open as a brewery, but you can go and buy the beers. You've got an honesty box there.
That's right.
You can do all of that.
Well,
Brilliant.
COVID did that. So because suddenly all the pubs were shut, and it was decimating.
Yeah.
And so we put in an honesty box, and people can come down and help themselves to beer. And actually, Monday to Friday, there's a team there, Roger's in the office, and they can come and buy anything else, of course. But you're right, when we were closed and at weekends, there's always something to come and grab.
I've been down there, and the other thing to say, well, it's great, you know, I went down to get my BBs and stuff, but also, I did put the money in. The other thing to say...
Good man.
Yeah,
Yes,
thank you,
good man.
I'm allowed back, you know. But the other thing, Anthony couldn't believe this one. But,
and the London skeptic in me said, that's never going to work, but it apparently does.
it certainly does.
Well, until we get, burned, yes. It's a special, part of the world, really.
It is a special part of the world.
It's a special part of the world. It's a special business for you, because not only are you now working with your great pal Ben Pauling
Yes.
up at Naunton Downs.
Oh God, yeah, that's dangerous.
It means the two of you get into bed together, so to speak.
Well, no, he's very sweet. It's good fun, and he's got this amazing setup up there, and ever since he took it on, he very sweetly has been buying our beer, and it just helps everyone really.
The other pubs you have as well, the
Yeah.
other 18 pubs, you've got
Yeah.
great locations. Lots of racing people go, don't they?
Yeah.
It's really important to racing, isn't it?
Well, the Donington pubs are all within a stone's throw of the brewery at Star in the World, and of course we're only a few miles from Cheltenham. So racing's in the DNA amongst the pubs, and I mean we're in January and February now, and life is difficult for pubs generally with utility bills and COVID, and so racing, we're very lucky to have that theme that comes through within the pubs, and well, I mean, suddenly race week comes along in March and one doesn't look back again. Then the summer and then away we go. And I've always believed that really, really has helped us in this part of the world, and with our pubs. And there's that, the history of the two together. It works.
So the festival is a springboard for your year, essentially.
Well, I think within the trade, January and February is a difficult time, but equally, we are very lucky with the amazing people running the Donington pubs. I mean, all of them, many have been running the pubs for years. Joe's been here and Morgie for, I think it's 17, 18 years now. I mean, it's remarkable, and so it's their pubs, and it's for them to do however they like with it. And we're just a sort of silent partner backing them up and delighted when they really celebrate the ale.
It's absolutely fantastic.
Well, talking Celebrate the Ale, we will raise a glass.
I've got a bit of work to do behind the bar here, actually. I'm just going to be putting away here.
Neil, you get yours ready.
A good man.
Oh, look at that.
He's done that before.
I'll be here for the festival, everybody. I'll be here. I'll be working all the time there as well.
So you got the gold. Well done. Cheers.
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 Got the BB there.
Well done.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers, guys.
There's been plenty of opportunity to raise a glass in celebration this season, and that's in no small part down to the new facilities.
Everything's very easy, the horses really enjoy it, they're very healthy, and a lot of it was built around the health of the yard, the ventilation of the barns, and as you can see today, from you seeing them today, that's just fantastic, and it seems to be working great.
Speaking of the barns, the ventilation is a key but quite fashionable thing at these days. The sickness of horses, obviously something that you want to avoid, but the bedding underneath as well, that's a particularly unique touch for a UK stable.
Yeah, I mean, I spent the last 2 summers I've spent in Henry de Bromhead's and just trying to learn new things and see different aspects of training. And it was one thing I noticed when we were over there, the floors that they got in the bed, it's like a rubber memory foam. It's cushioned for the horses, and yeah, it's a great thing. There's no seams in it, so nothing get under it, no infection or anything get under the beds, which is brilliant.
Logistics-wise, moving tens of horses over from the old barn, which we saw plenty of in our previous visits, to here, how much of a challenge was that?
Well, I thought he was nuts, first of all, Ben. Actually, he decided that we were going to ride them all over, and I just couldn't see it happening, to be honest. But no, he stuck to his guns and he wanted to do it, and actually it worked really well. I think we rode 4 lots. I think first lot pulled out at 7:30, and we had everything over here by 3 o'clock that day. It was good for the horses, they enjoyed it, and the staff were all great, and we got it all done in a day, which was brilliant.
Have you noticed a change in the trainer himself from those early steps that you took by his side, from head lad up to assistant trainer, to now the man with his name above a pretty substantial office?
No, look, Ben's always been very driven. I mean, from the day I started, all he's wanted to do is build the quality, build the owners, and build the number of horses we've got. And I think we've got 94 boxes here now, and I think he'll tell you as well that we're happy with that. We probably don't want too many more. We just want to fill this 94 box yard with as much quality as we can.
With the horses and staff happy, you can't forget those that make this all possible, the owners.
As owners' rooms go, this is one of the flashiest I've been in for quite some time. It is an important part of the business, though.
Yeah, it is. Soph's very much designed this. It was nothing to do with me. But it's a lovely area, and we work in a leisure industry. We are providing it's most of my owners, you know, some it's business, but most it's a hobby, and they need to enjoy themselves, and coming to the yard and seeing the horses on the gallops and having a nice time is a big part of it. And so to have a facility like this to entertain and let them enjoy themselves, and also give us all space. So if I'm trying to do declarations or whatever, they've still got an area where they can relax and enjoy until we can go outside.
What was the reaction of owners when you announced that you were going to move?
I think a lot of them were pleased, because, you know, they could see that we were ambitious and we wanted to get on and progress. I think a lot also thought we were, you know, biting off quite a lot, with building somewhere from scratch. But with an amazing team, I must admit, from Soph and then Hannah, my secretary. She was a huge part of the whole build. She was in charge of all the finances and making sure that we kept a budget as close as we could.
It must be surreal to be a racehorse trainer who likely grew up, like most people do, watching Match of the Day, seeing someone like a Harry Redknapp on screen as a prominent Premier League manager, to now have him on your books as an owner with some prominent horses as well. What does that do for Ben Pauling, the teenager, the adult, just the football fan?
Yeah, and I am a football fan as well. I mean, Harry's a great guy. Always has been, always will be. Understands the game, doesn't get involved to the level, he lets you make the decisions, but he's a competitive man and he likes success. And you know, there's been some conversations when we feel like a horse should have won a few more than it has, but he's been a great owner, and I now see him as someone that I speak to regularly. And you know, he's no longer that, you know, Tottenham Hotspur manager. He's Harry and a great guy and a real enthusiast for the game, and it's just a joy to train for. To
have headline names like that, but also loyal supporters like the Megsons in particular, who have taken you to some great days and potential even greater days to come. That must be a real shot in the arm that they keep the faith.
Yeah, they've been huge supporters of ours for a long while now. I can't remember, I think it was 2017 they came, so that's 5-6 years. And yeah, we've had some great days for them. Global Citizen won multiple Grade 2s, and then he was just short of ever winning a Grade 1, but picking up the Johnny Henderson last year after he'd been slightly off the boil for 18 months meant a lot to Andrew and Jane to have their first festival winner, and also Lily and Jazz, their children, because it's very much the Megsons, it's not just Andrew and Jane. And it's great that they got that day, and it was huge satisfaction for us all, because a lot of people have thought he'd probably gone at the game. So yeah, I mean, they've been huge supporters, and you know, they've bought some lovely horses recently, and hopefully we can keep producing some decent results for them as the season goes on and into the future. But there's a whole host of other owners, you know, Rachel and John Brodie have 5 or 6 with us, and you know, there's other owners that have 4 or 5, and everybody has really embraced the move. And we've bought some lovely horses recently, and hopefully we can keep going. And we've always liked to buy the stores and we continue to do that. So we've got a barn of 20 horses that have just turned 4 there, and hopefully they're the future.
While Nico and the like aren't as available as they used to be, it was great to see him this morning just giving tips to some of your staff on schooling in particular, and still good to see him show his face around the place, a place that has been very good to him as well as him very, very good to you. Yeah, no, Nico's a great mate and will always be a great mate, and he's brilliant. There's no better jockey I firmly believe, anywhere. For schooling, he's a superb jockey on the track, but at home he is unbelievable. Even back in the days when Barry was riding all of 7 Barrows, the Sprinter Sacras and those horses. I wasn't there for Altior, but Barry would always specify that if he wasn't there to school him, it was Nico that schooled him. And the way Nico produces a horse to a fence is poetry. And seeing him ride in our school, you know, on a Wednesday morning he comes in and
there's normally about 6 or 8 horses for him to pop, and they're normally the ones that need a bit of a reminder or a bit of a schooling session. And by the time he's been around 3 or 4 times, the horse is trusting the jockey, and their confidence is back, and he's great. But on the flip side, he's very, very, very happy to bark instructions at the younger generation, and he's loud and he's firm, but he's fair, and the information that he can give them is invaluable. But also, if they what I particularly like them doing is, once they've ridden their 1 or 2, if they get to school a couple, coming and just watching the way Nico does it, and trying to learn, because everyone needs role models, and if you're going to have a role model when it comes to schooling in a school at home, I think Nico de Boinville would be bang up there, and he's just a great guy to have around, and not a threat to our other jockeys, because he'll ride whatever we can give him when the other guys aren't there, but he knows his loyalties lie with Nicky, and on we go, and it all works really well.
Do you have an archetypal, a Ben Pauling type of horse that you like to have? We're used to hearing that's a Nicky Henderson horse, there's a Paul Nicholls, a 3-mile chaser of the future. What's a Ben Pauling horse?
If I could buy any horse, it'd be 16.2, 16.3, no bigger really than that. Plenty of strength, athletic, scope, that type of. I've always liked the bigger type, but I wouldn't be afraid of a speedier horse. We've got some lovely juvenile hurdlers this year that we haven't had for a little while, and then we've got some nice French import and a few others and so they're the sort of speedier flat type. So yes, I'm very much traditional in the fact that you like a big scopy animal, but we've got some nicer smaller types as well at the moment. It's great because I very much feel like we've not just stereotyping ourselves to one type of horse. Hopefully with the numbers we've got, we need to have all sorts.
The amount of winners you've had so far has been immense. The prize money's looking more than healthy. What would make you look back and smile at the season? Right at the end of it, you look back on what you've achieved. What would make you beam from ear to ear?
Well, I mean, whatever happens this season, I will look back at it as a success. Moving to a new yard and what we appear to have got to grips with the facilities and how to work it very quickly. I suppose I had enough time in my brain to plan it, but that was a huge thing for me personally, and Soph and I have been thrilled with the way it's gone. So good start. I mean, you'd love to see a number of winners between now and the end of April, but we all look towards festivals and things like that. If you could knock a festival winner or 2 on the head, before the end of the season, that would be pretty special. But whatever happens, if they stay healthy, I know we've got the horses there to go and feature in some of the bigger races towards the end of the season. Maybe some of the novices might not be quite ready yet, but they'll be there for chasing next season. But we've got some nice horses to go to war with, and they're not, some of them haven't even been out yet, and it's just a really great place to be at the moment, and we're really enjoying it, and we feel very fortunate that we're in this position.
Long may it continue. Thanks, Ben.
Thanks very much, Adam.
So that's it for the latest edition of This Racing Life. From myself, from Shake 'em Up Harry, thank you to Ben and all of his team for the warm welcome, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Watch live racing now on racingtv.com.